Hello, BookTube. I went out first thing this morning to meet a fellow booktuber at the Brattle Bookshop in downtown Boston. Uh, I was detoured from that meeting quite a bit by running into some dogs. I ran into a whole bunch of dogs, all of whom needed attention, all of whom needed face smooches. But eventually I got to the Brattle Bookshop, which is a used bookstore in the heart of downtown Boston. It's a fantastic place. I love it. Been going there for well over 6 months. And it has shelf after shelf after shelf of reasonably priced books on all subjects in the world except romance. And then it has a sale lot outside that is thousands more books for $1, $3, or $5. And you can always find new things out there, always. And I was going to the Brattle first thing. I ordinarily don't go to the Brattle on the weekends, but I went this weekend to meet a fellow booktuber, Grammaticus Books, who is so far a kind of fly under the radar, well-kept secret of BookTube. But he's a terrific channel. I'll leave a link to him down below. I'll leave a link to his latest video, to the limited extent that my links work on anything. I'll leave a link to his latest video, which is a really good one on comparing the two fantasy artists, Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. Not to say whether or not which is better. You know, that's the kind of the tongue-in-cheek thriller in Manila setup of the video. It's of course not to say which is better, but rather to assess what they do. It's a really, really good video. And if you are a science fiction fantasy fan, you know the work of these two men. Very much worth your time to watch and give Grammaticus Books a subscription. Of course, meeting Grammaticus Books at the Brattle was a problem, as I realized every time I arrange to meet someone at the Brattle, I realize what a bad idea that is, because I'm not seeing the books at the Brattle as a backdrop. I'm not accustomed to them in any way. They completely subsume me when I'm there. So I imagine that I just repeatedly am a bad host at the Brattle because I meet somebody there and then start to ignore them. And in this case, it was even worse because Grammaticus Books had moved into the shop. By the time I got there, I was delayed by face mooching literally every dog in the greater Boston area. So I was delayed getting there, and when I got there, I looked in the sale lot. I'm not very good at recognizing humans. I'm really good at recognizing dogs. Not very good at recognizing humans, but even so, I thought, surely I will know this guy. I've watched all his videos. I didn't see him, and I guess for a fraction of a second, the thought crossed my mind, well, he's probably moved into the shop. You should go in and find him. But I didn't. I couldn't. The books were calling. So I just started looking at all of the books. Eventually, I remembered to go inside the shop and we met. It was a lot of fun. And I got a lot of books. I pulled a lot of books off the shelves that I contemplated but did not end up getting. The tumblers shift around all the time when I'm at the Brattle Bookshop. When I'm shopping there, I will see something and think, yeah, that's for $1, that's definitely worth it. For $3, that's definitely worth it. And you have to grab those things when you see them in the outside lot. You have to develop an armload of books, because if you leave it there, even thinking, well, I'll look at everything and then I'll come back for this, it won't be there. Even minutes later, it won't be there. You have to grab everything that you want and then decide. Then you let all the plates stop spinning and you figure out what it is you actually want and don't want. I did that a little bit unpredictably, but the yardstick of whether or not you do that wrong, whether or not I do that wrong, is if I get back here and some one particular book is nagging at me, where I should have got one particular book and I remember it vividly, I know where it was, and it's not going to be there the next time I go there, and I'm kicking myself. And I'm not feeling that this afternoon. So probably this was a good trip to the Brattle. Certainly, it'll have things that I think will be keepers. My goal is to get keepers at the Brattle, things that I will keep for years instead of just until the next time I sell the Brattle books. Also, I'm not saying at the moment officially that I'm looking for things that I don't think exist as ebooks. I'm not saying that. I have room in my life for print and paper books and also ebooks. I have room for both. I have room even for paperback copies or paper book copies of books for which I also have ebooks. I have room for both. So I'm not saying that that guided my decision, although looking at these books, you would easily think that it was guiding my decision. It's unlikely that a lot of these things are ebooks. But I have been in the process steadily in the second half of 2023 of rearranging and rethinking my collection of paper books. I have way too many of them. An absurdly great number of them for the number of them that I read. An absurdly great number of them for the degree to which they now annoy me. They annoy me enormously. Now that I know, now that I the newness of it and the tech curiosity of it has sort of winnowed out of the process, and now I just know what this feels like. Now that it feels like an absolutely second nature extension of the reading process, instead of, oh, I'll try that new e-reading thing tonight. Now that that is true, well, I've mentioned it on this channel before, what the result is, which is that if I decide, let's say I'm looking at Instagram, and I see Mark Richardson upload a picture of his latest book haul. He did this just yesterday. Just a gigantic stack of Clive Cussler hardcovers. That is one of the glories of BookTube, as I've said many times before. Before I started watching Mark's channel, especially before I spent time with Mark, got to know him as a friend, I had largely written off Clive Cussler as just a men's thriller writer. Nothing really to see there, even though I had enjoyed Pacific Vortex and especially Raise the Titanic. I liked both those books. I remembered liking both those books. But Mark likes Clive Cussler, doesn't have any illusions about Clive Cussler being, Turgenev or anything like that, but likes him. That sort of thing, when it happens in the context of BookTube, with people that you know, either through videos or in person or both, has the advantage of throwing open your mind to an author for whom it was closed a little or a lot before. But that's a perfect example. Clive Cussler's books, his novels, are a perfect example of something that I absolutely do not need. Not like Mark, I absolutely do not need those books. As paper books taking up space on shelves, I absolutely do not need them. Most of Edgar Rice Burroughs, no. Most of Alistair MacLean, no. I might read these things, absolutely. Len Deighton, I've been reading quite a bit of Len Deighton since November started. But as books, no. No. Those are shelves and shelves and shelves of books, of paper books. When I go instinctively to my little e-reader when it comes time to read. So I'm not saying that either one of those dictated my choices today. The choices do bounce all over, though. We have one paperback only. And it's a paperback that I wasn't actually expecting to find. Last time I went to the Brattle, or the time before that, I showed you an Imaro book by Charles Saunders. An old DAW paperback of, what is it? Was it Raiders of Kush or something like that? I think it was the second Imaro book. Imaro was sort of branded by people who should have known better, should have known how dangerous branding is, was branded as the Black Tarzan. That does no justice to Imaro or Tarzan. These are extremely imaginative new works that build a fantasy up from a bedrock, a DNA that is not Scandinavian, that is not European. And I got that second one, and I remember thinking, I read all the Imaro books when they came out as DAW paperbacks, eons ago. And I remember thinking that was my favorite one of the bunch that I could remember. And I remember thinking, well, you're bound to find all of the others, but you won't find the DAW mass market paperback of the first Imaro book. You won't find that because probably if anything's going to be collectible, it's going to be that. But I found it. I found it today. This is the first one. There, Imaro is fighting a pasty white man hippo. And this is these yellow spine DAW paperbacks. I used to have a whole wall of these things. This came out in 1981, and it had portions of it showed up in magazines called Night Voyages, Dragonbane, Fantasy Digest with a PH, dark fantasy and the year's best fantasy stories. Oh, and the dedication is to the greatest mother in the world, mine. How wonderful. All right, well, I got all of these. I am not, absolutely not, going to reconstitute any kind of DAW Yellow Spine mass market collection. I'm absolutely not going to do that. I'm not even going to look on eBay, because I'm sure that if you go to eBay, someone is selling a complete set of DAW Yellow Spine mass market paperbacks, probably for $1,000. I'm sure that someone is doing that, probably multiple someones. I am not going to do that. But I'm very happy to find this. I doubt that I'll find any other Imaro books, but I found this one. Then something for Dr. November. Dr. November is a booktube event created by Mark at Book Time with Elvis. He invited me to be, or eventually, once I twisted all of their arms, the miserable losers, they invited me grudgingly to be a co-host for Dr. November, which, as you could tell from the title, is all about spy fiction, espionage fiction, starting with the Russian revolutions and moving all the way to the end of the Soviet Union. Those are our demarcations this time around. I've been looking forward to Dr. November. I've been doing a lot of pre-reading and a lot of reading in November. And I've talked to a number of people who are enjoying pulling down a spy novel from their shelves. I don't know what the numbers are like. I'm always a little bit foggy in how to tell whether or not a booktube event is successful. Unless it's just unmistakable, right? June on the Range was an unmistakable success. Garb August is an unmistakable success. Nonfiction November, March, Mystery Madness. These things are big successes. But I know a lot of people who are reading espionage fiction this month because of Dr. November. And we also had Mark at Book Time with Elvis and Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and I did a live stream yesterday that was so much fun. Just so much fun. Ranging all over the world in terms of real-life espionage and fake espionage. Fiction. And one of the books that comes up over and over again when you talk about this subject is The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. And I was in the shop and I found this thing and it grabbed at me. I don't quite know why, but I will see what I will see. I know what grabbed me about this. I found a hardcover copy of The Riddle of the Sands, and the thing that grabbed me was a unique edition of The Riddle of the Sands. And it says on the cover what is unique about it. It has an exclusive postscript containing the historical facts which lie behind this incomparable sailing story, the best ever written. This edition includes unabridged extracts from the charts actually used aboard the Dulcibella, together with 27 illustrations drawn from the past and from the sea which Dulcibella sailed. This postscript is by R.M. Bowker. Now, I'm going to raise an eyebrow here just a bit at the description of The Riddle of the Sands as the greatest sailing story ever told. I'm going to raise an eyebrow at that. I'd be willing to bet that somewhere up in the wilds of Vermont, Mark Richardson is probably raising an eyebrow too if he ever sees this video, because I'm not sure that he or I would put this book above Gypsy Moth Sails the World. I'm Sailing Alone Around the World. I'm not sure that either one of us would put it above that, and we'd probably have a couple of other books too that would go first. But I want to find out. I want to experience what's unique about this edition. Although I have to say, I'm sure that I have Riddle of the Sands. Riddle of the Sands is free on Project Gutenberg, so I'm sure that I have an ebook of it. So I have to say, even when I was grabbing this off the shelf at the Brattle and I immediately thought, oh, Dr. November, you want a book for Dr. November, and I want to explore all the stuff that's in here. But even while I was pulling it off the shelf, I knew that this is not a keeper. I don't love this book enough to want this edition of it. But I was thinking in the back of my mind, and I'm still thinking, wouldn't it be great for a Dr. November giveaway? One of you certainly loves this book more than I do, and might never have seen this edition. So obviously if I'm mentioning it now, feel free to let me know if you want this, but I've never figured out how to do giveaways on this channel. On the one hand, they seem like the most natural thing in the world, since I'm at the post office mailing things to people anyway, but on the other hand, they don't, because I'm at the post office every day mailing things to people. So it feels weird to make a specific thing for a giveaway when most of you know that you can just ask me for a book, and I'll either send you the copy that I have or I'll find you a copy. That's kind of well known on this channel, so the actual formal booktube thing of a giveaway seems a little bit odd. But I'm definitely giving away this volume. Maybe I'll have to make a separate video about it. Although even there, I'm wary because separate videos that say giveaway in the title attract all sorts of people who swarm all over social media just for that word. They don't know your channel. They don't care about the book. They're just looking for free stuff. That's all. And I don't want to attract any of those people. I don't want to attract any people to this channel. But anyway, let's see. This next one is a big anthology. I saw it out in the sale lot. I ignored it. Never do that. If the slightest thing is pulling you at it, then grab it. And then I was in the shop. I was talking with Grammaticus Books. Suddenly I remembered I saw another book in the shop, and it reminded me of the one I left out in the sale lot. I went out there. It was still there from 15 minutes before, so I grabbed it. It's Ellery Queen put his name on it. This is 101 Years Entertainment. It's a gigantic anthology of detective stories, murder mystery stories, with the skull hand on the spine there, lifting up the curtain. And I like the plug feel of this. It's a bigger, heftier feel to this. I love this anthology. It's one of the best mystery anthologies that's ever been done. Everybody Who's Anybody is in here. And not only that, not only included, but a lot of their best stuff. There are hardly any bad stories in here. And every author who's in here could write a bad story. So somebody, I'm not sure that it was Ellery Queen. In fact, I'm fairly certain it wasn't. But somebody did a real good job picking for this. And I grabbed it from the Brattle. First of all, it was cheap. It was $1. But also, I grabbed it even though I already have it. The Modern Library did this thing in a volume. 101 Years Entertainment. It's not as big a thing. It's not as tall a thing. And I got this 3 years ago, at the Brattle. Sure that I hauled it on this channel. But I realized as soon as I saw this thing that this is what I want. So I guess we have another giveaway. I do not need 2 copies of this. And it's a really good anthology. So you murder mystery fans out there, if you live in a used book desert, you might never have seen this thing. Pretty sure there's no ebook of it. Feel free to let me know. Feel free to let me know if you'd like me to send you a copy of it. Good Lord, the feng shui is just nightmarish here. I haven't taken care of books. It's Saturday. I haven't taken care of any books for over a week. So the Foot Locker here was where I work, and it is loaded with books. It's loaded with all kinds of things. It needs a thorough cleaning. Maybe I'll do that on a Sunday. I'll do that tomorrow. Then this next one, I had contemplated this thing. I'd held it in my hand and thought about it inside the shop. I found it on a shelf inside the shop and thought, yeah, that looks really interesting. I've never read that. It's an author who's now completely forgotten. And I put it back on the shelf at the shop and thought really nothing more of it. And then it showed up in the sale lot. And when that happens, you have to say yes. And it's Roadside Meetings by Hamlin Garland. It's a collection of the author's encounters with various literary folk. Let me see if we can see here. Dr. Edward Everett Hale and Edwin Booth. James Russell Lowell, Robert Ingersoll. Let's see here. Who else we know? William Dean Howells. Walt Whitman. John Burroughs. Kipling. Stephen Crane. Anybody else whose names will know? There's a chapter called The Story of Ulysses S. Grant. Hamlin ought to know. Garland would know that story if anybody would. That's probably Barry and I Meet Roosevelt. The editors of new magazines. All of these these are just little intellectual little pieces. I'm pretty sure there's one on George Bernard Shaw. Isn't that right? Kipling Returns to America. Yeah, Shaw. Okay. And also Henry James and a bunch of other stuff in here. I was really tempted with the copy that was in the store because I am a Ham Garland fan. I'm probably the only living Ham Garland fan. He was a son of Boston and Iowa. It's true that I think he was born somewhere else, somewhere in the misbegotten upper Midwest or something like that. But we don't hold those things against people. What the important thing is that he was a literary figure, he knew everybody, was really popular, sold really well, did really well once upon a time, 100 years ago, 120 years ago. If you'd have asked an ordinary bookish American, name a foremost American man of letters, they'd have said Ham Garland. He's totally forgotten now. And I like his occasional nonfiction. I like his occasional prose. I think I like it more than I like his fiction, predictably enough. So to find this in the sale lot, after I mulled it over and put it back inside the shop, that was a nudge from the muses that I really couldn't resist here. What else we got? Okay, then there's this thing. This is going to need a plastic covering, but then again, I don't know if it's going to need a plastic covering because I don't know how much I'm going to like it. This is from. Let's get a date on this. 1946. This is the Bathroom Reader. And there you have everybody in the household headed for the bathroom. And all the different get-ups and nightgowns and states of emergency, they're all headed to the bathroom. And that's what this is. This is just, what does it say here? A sparkling collection of stories, poems, and sketches by the great humorous writers of today, illustrated by Irvin Metzel. And that's all that this is. It's just little pieces designed to be read in, so to speak, one sitting. I've encountered, this is a popular idea for a book, of course. What was it called? Uncle John's Bathroom Reader? They were laminated. They were lightly laminated in case of water damage. That thing, whatever it was, the Bathroom Reader, I'm sure you know the book I'm talking about, even if I haven't got the name right. They were white. They had a bathroom impedimenta on the cover. And those things went to like 30 volumes. And 5 decades before that, there was another series and that was just as popular. I love occasional things like this. A lot of times they save authors who were really big in their day, much like Cam Garland, but who are completely forgotten now. So they're very interesting. Today was a kind of an anthology-heavy day for me. I don't mind that at all. Then these next two maybe were finds of the day. Maybe they were. I'm sure that they were well printed, but I never see them, much less in hardcover, with dust jackets, with plastic coverings on the dust jacket. These are by Alexander King, who's difficult to explain. It'd be difficult to explain to the modern era. He was involved in everything. Just every magazine, every book section, every publisher, just everyone knew him. He knew everyone. He wrote little things, drew little things for anybody. Always there, always ready to do work, always with the most interesting story in the room. And he wrote a couple of books that, against all odds, managed to capture his raconteur voice. Usually that's the first thing that goes when raconteurs settle down to write a book. The first thing that goes is the magic of why anyone listened to them at all. And Alexander King actually manages to capture it in his first book, Mine Enemy Grows Older, where it's the note on the cover is, this cover, which the author drew himself, bothers you. You can take it off. There's a more conservative cover underneath. I have not looked at that. Why would anybody? This is a beautiful cover. There is our author in younger days, and he did everything, just everything. I found it really kind of funny. A book section editor in the American Midwest a long time ago, 50, 60 years ago, who used to write book reviews under pen names. I know, the shock. He used to do that. And one time, he wrote a review of this book. When did this thing come out? Well, it would have been 1958. That editor wrote a review of this book and said that the one thing you can't accuse Alexander King of is name dropping. Hilarious. All he does in anything that he wrote is drop names. That's all he does. He just does it so well that you love it. You just absolutely love it. A whole decade's worth of literary, Broadway, acting, Hollywood luminaries are in here. You never know who you're going to encounter from page to page. I found Mine Enemy Grows Older, and I also found its sequel, May This House Be Safe from Tigers. I found both of them. They weren't together at the Brattle. I found this thing in the sale lot. The sale lot's not organized in any way except by price. So I found this thing and thought, oh, that's neat. And the first volume of this, what was the first volume called? Mine Enemy Grows Older. And then a bell went off in my head. I realized that a few minutes ago on a different card, I had seen a copy of Mine Enemy Grows Older, and my eye had just blurred right past it, which happens at the Brattle. That's why you can profitably go every day. So I grabbed this thing and I went looking, and I actually did find them both. Fantastic. These are going to be immense amounts of fun rereading. Then there's this thing, another anthology. This is another treasury. The last time I was at the Brattle, I found this Cavalcade of Colliers. Collier's magazine that did so well. Oh my, so well. And this has been so much fun to read through. Much more enjoyable than I expected. Much more. All sorts of famous authors, but all sorts of authors who aren't famous either anymore are in here. And all kinds of different articles. And today I found this, a treasury of the Saturday Evening Post, which was it's the exact same kind of thing. It doesn't have a protective dust jacket, but I can fix that. But it's the exact same kind of thing. It's just a full collection. It's got lots of artwork in 2 separate sections, I believe. Yeah, 2 separate sections. Got all sorts of covers. Of course, you got a lot of Norman Rockwell covers because he was, that was famous. His famous work for the Saturday Evening Post. But you get lots of other things too. Lots of Saturday Evening Post cover artists who aren't famous who are in here. But you also get tons of articles. Who do we have here? Benjamin Franklin, Edgar Allan Poe, James Whitcomb Riley, Ring Lardner. Lots of names that aren't around anymore. People don't know them anymore. Alfred Noyes is in here. Irwin Cobb, Carolyn Wells, George Fitch. These names aren't known anymore, but there are names that are known. Edith Wharton is in here, and William Faulkner. There's Jerome K. Jerome for Mark at Book Time with Elvis, Stephen Crane, Jack London, C.K. Chesterton. Yeah, this is just going to be amazing. I'm sure this is going to be absolutely as much fun as this was, and is still being. So I was happy to find this thing. And then finally, a Brattle Second Chance. The Brattle does, because they get turnover all the time, even a book that you don't ever see, you are likely to see more than once at the Brattle. If you wait long enough, if you're patient enough, you go often enough. Even something that you never see used. And I got a book from the Brattle years ago. I hauled it on this channel. I talked about it on this channel. And I got rid of it. I mailed it away. It and its 2 companions I mailed away to one of you who live in a book desert, really wanted, fond memories of your father. You're never going to find it. Don't trust buying it online. All the usual things. You people play me like a banjo. So I did. I boxed them up and I sent them away. And that was years ago. But I remember thinking when I was doing it, well, yes, it stings a little, but it's totally justified. Because I am far more likely to see this again than you are. So it's just ordinary good manners. It's ordinary good, decent, ethical behavior. That if I'm more likely to see it than you are, I shouldn't be grabby about it. And I had to wait, and I had to wait, and I saw it today. It's this thing. It's Woodcock Ways. This is Henry Marion Hall with illustrations by Ralph Ray. And I believe it was Ralph Ray. I have no idea how to find the video. Grammaticus Books and I were lamenting together today that it's impossible to find any videos on my channel. But I believe that the thing that I mentioned most last time I talked about this book was Ray's artwork, which is incredible. And I think he does black and white spot illustrations and also full color stuff all throughout here of woodcocks. Their natural history, their migration patterns, what they act like in the wild. It's a look at how charming that is. I think I talked about Ray last time I mentioned the last copy of this book that I got because he died so young. He did absolutely beautiful work and then died when he was a young man. So we don't have much of his work. I'm kind of hoping that whoever unloaded this on the Brattle also unloaded the other 2 Ralph Ray volumes that I had once upon a time. I got rid of all 3 of them. I'd love to get all 3 of them back, although Woodcock Ways is my favorite of the 3. So it's the one that's, yeah, here they are. The Ruffled Grouse is another one. And then there was one other. There was a third one. Woodcock Ways, the Ruffled Grouse, and there was one other. But anyway, I'm hoping that other books like this are there. The Brattle was unpacking a large amount of hunting and shooting guides. One of the things I like about Woodcock Ways is that it does, of course, mention that you can hunt woodcock, but it isn't all about that. Oh my God, the sale lot was full of ornate, 100-year-old, beautifully illustrated animal guides that I would have snapped them all up, but they were all about not only finding the animal and understanding the animal, but also blowing the animal's head off. I don't want that to be part of my nature books. That's a very small part of this book. So I was very happy to find this. Very happy. I'm going to try to hold on to it. I'm going to hope that one of you doesn't want it. But that was my trip to the Brattle first thing this morning, to see Grammaticus Books, to see everybody at the shop. Actually saw a fleeting glimpse of my beamish boy, Zach, who I never see anymore because he's so busy. Did a lot of shopping. It's the weekend, so it didn't take long for the shop to start getting crowded. And I don't like it when the shop gets crowded because then I'm not the queen bee anymore. so I had to go anyway because my own queen bee was impatiently waiting for me to get home. But I will be back. But in the meantime, I'm going to do quite a bit of reading. I want to stress that about my Brattle trips. I especially want to stress it in light of the Read What You Own challenge that's going all around our corner of BookTube, is that these are not meant as taunts at all. I would like to think that even the people who don't like my channel, which is mostly everybody on BookTube, I would like to think that even the people who don't like my channel are willing by this point to acknowledge that I am actually reading the things I buy in short order. I'm not buying these things and chucking them on a shelf. I'm working my way through most of the stuff that I got at the Brattle last time, and I will work my way through these things in a fairly timely manner before the end of the year. And once I'm done doing that, I will then decide which of these things I'm keeping and which ones are going. They will not hang around. If they're not keepers, they won't hang around. So, but anyway, I don't know what that was all about. This is not meant to be a taunt for the Read What You Own crowd, is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to jump into these things. I'm pretty sure that the Ham Garlinger book is going to be the first thing tonight. I'm pretty sure that of all of these, even the Alexander King, he's endlessly readable. In case I mentioned name dropping, and in case you think Gore Vidal is at his most boring when he's name dropping. It's the only time when he's boring on the printed page. And Christopher Hitchens the same way. They're the most boring when they're doing it because they're dropping a name, but the focus is never supposed to shift from them. Whereas when King does it, it's all about just the ordinary rambling about in life. It's not meant to say, and then underscore, how cool he is. So it's a different kind of name dropping. It feels so much more effective. But even as good as these books are, I think the Ham Garland book will come first. Probably. Not all of it, maybe. But so we have Woodcock Ways. Very happy to find this again. That is wonderful. Only at the Brattle. Then May This House Be Safe from Tigers and Mine Enemy Grows Older by Alexander King. His two books. He did others, but these are the two everybody knew him by. Then The Bathroom Reader, which is introduced by Earl Wilson and may or may not find itself in that room. And then we have Roadside Meetings by Ham Garland. How incredible. How amazing to find it out in the sale lot. We have 101 Years of Entertainment. Edited in heavy air quotes by Ellery Queen. We have a unique edition of Riddle of the Sands, probably due to go in the mail to an espionage fan. And finally, Imaro, the first Imaro adventure, to go with the second one that I found just the other day. So that is... Oh, and I also forgot a Saturday Evening Post Treasury, which is... Look at that. It's got so much artwork in here. So it's got ads and covers and editorial spot illustrations. Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So there you go. That was my trip to the Brattle this morning. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time. Of course, Grammaticus Books had to go. He couldn't spend the whole morning there, and I couldn't really either. But I'll be back, and I'll take you with me. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.